A tech billionaire returns home unexpectedly and finds his two baby daughters shivering so violently that their lips are turning a disturbing shade of blue, but the chilling events don't end there. Take a deep breath and settle in for this story. My hope is that this tale becomes the perfect catalyst to help you fall asleep tonight. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Before we dive into Richard's story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like something was deeply wrong, but no one believed you? Like Anna will in this story? Comment below. What's your first impression of Victoria? Do you trust her? I'll read your thoughts in my next video. But for now, let's see what happens when Richard comes home early. Seattle was drowning in rain. A thick, relentless drizzle had been falling since the night before, soaking the cold, slippery stone steps leading up to the Sullivan family's luxury estate. The morning fog barely pierced the gray mist, reflecting dully off the still surface of Lake Washington. The sprawling 8,500-square-foot waterfront mansion sat in silence, seeming to swallow every sound from the city below. Today, Richard Sullivan stood by the living room window. The dim light from the overhead lamp illuminated his face, making his already pale complexion look even more exhausted. In his hand, a cup of Starbucks coffee had gone cold, and the damp air still carried the scent of wet earth. For 3 years since Claire, his late wife, suddenly passed away from a heart condition, he hadn't known a single truly peaceful morning. Before we dive into Richard's story, I want to ask, have you ever felt like something was wrong but couldn't quite put your finger on it? Like Anna does in the story? Comment below. What's your gut instinct telling you about Victoria before anything even happens? I'll read some of your thoughts in my next video. But for now, let's see what Richard discovers when he comes home early. Only the sound of rain and the persistent emptiness in his heart remained. Soft footsteps echoed from the staircase. Victoria appeared, her chestnut hair neatly pulled back, a cream silk robe perfectly cinched at the waist. "Up early again, sweetheart?" she asked, her voice gentle. Richard didn't turn, just nodded slightly. "The sound of the rain keeps me awake." Victoria approached slowly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You need to learn to let your mind rest." "I'll take care of everything," Richard responded quietly. "I know." From the adjoining room came a faint whimper, either Emma or Olivia. Victoria turned quickly and left with light but determined steps. Richard watched her go, his gaze a mixture of gratitude and distance. She had entered his life when he was nearly broken, when everything seemed to be collapsing. She said she only wanted to help him heal, to make sure the two little ones had a warm home again. And he had believed her. Upstairs, the nursery was filled with soft white light. The twins lay in their cribs, their faces identical in every feature, except for a small beauty mark on Olivia's left cheek. Victoria leaned over, lifting each baby from the crib. All right, my loves. Mommy's here," she cooed, kissing each forehead. Her lips touched lightly, but her eyes looked distant. When Emma let out a soft sob, Victoria briefly tightened her grip, then immediately relaxed. "It's okay, sweetie. Everything's going to be fine." Her voice was even light, but lacking any real warmth. The door opened, and Martha, the elderly housekeeper, entered with blankets and bottles. "Victoria, I've prepared the milk for the babies." Victoria looked up with a ready smile. "Thank you, Martha. But let me do it myself. I prefer to care for them personally." Martha stood still for a few seconds, then nodded, setting down the bottles. "The water just finished heating. You should let it cool a bit." "I know," Victoria replied without looking back. As Martha turned to leave, she heard Victoria whisper so softly, it almost blended with the rain. "And soon, they'll only need me." Martha stopped in the doorway, her expression briefly changing. She turned and found Victoria smiling. "Could you make me some tea?" Her voice was so sweet, so kind, it was hard to detect the hidden layer beneath. Martha nodded, leaving the room. But her gaze lingered silently on Victoria's hands, her fingers gripping the bottles so tightly they were turning white. Downstairs, Richard opened his laptop, preparing for a video conference. His life now revolved around numbers, charts, and contracts, a way to avoid thinking about what he'd lost. Victoria came down, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I think you should come home early tonight. The babies need you. And I need you too." Richard sighed softly. "All right. If work finishes early." "Not if, Richard. Let yourself live a little," she said, then walked away. Her light perfume floated in the air. Martha passed by. Their eyes met briefly, as if she wanted to say something but decided against it. She went straight to the kitchen. She had watched Richard grow up, knew him as a kind, stubborn boy. Now the young master lived in a cold house with a woman she simply didn't trust. In the kitchen, Martha silently cleaned the used bottles. Outside the window, the rain intensified, wind lashing the trees along the driveway. At noon, when Richard left for the office, Victoria stood by the stairs to see him off. "I'll organize and give the girls a bath. Don't worry. I trust you." Richard smiled, then left. But the moment the door closed, Victoria's smile vanished. She went straight upstairs, her heels clicking constantly on the hardwood floor. Martha emerged from the laundry room, saw her and called out, "Miss Hayes, do you need help?" "Not necessary. I prefer to care for them myself," came the reply from the stairs, light but definitive. Inside the bathroom, steam clouded the air. Victoria turned on the faucet, tested the temperature with her hand, then poured the water into a metal tub placed in the center of the room. The two babies sat in their cribs, watching their stepmother with curious eyes. Victoria turned, removed her outer robe, and smiled. "Come on. Today we're going to get clean and adorable. Just like two little angels." She bent down, lifted Emma, and placed her in the tub. The baby shivered slightly, her small hand gripping the edge of the tub, eyes wide with fear. Victoria placed a hand on her back, her voice soft as a whisper. "Hush now. Mommy's here." But the instant a flash of lightning illuminated her face from the window, her expression changed. Her eyes were empty, so cold that the entire room seemed to freeze. Martha was in the hallway, listening to the water run. Then a sudden premonition made her open the door and enter. Before her, Victoria was pouring water over the heads of both girls. The movement slow but not gentle. "What are you doing?" Martha exclaimed, rushing forward. Victoria turned, her smile intact. "Giving them a bath. Don't you see? The water is freezing. Can't you tell?" Martha's voice cracked. "You're talking like you don't know how to be a mother." Victoria set down the pitcher, her gaze like a sharpened blade. "I know exactly what I'm doing." Martha stepped forward, snatching the pitcher from her hand. "Claire used to say that too. And she stopped, eyes filling with grief. Victoria straightened, forming a thin smile. "Don't mention her in this house again. I'm the one in this family now." The air was thick. The two babies began to cry. Martha bent to lift them, but Victoria stopped her. "Give them to me." "No. Give them to me." Martha shook her head, holding the babies firmly, backing toward the door. "You think you have the right to do that?" Victoria asked, her voice low, her gaze seeming to pierce an invisible shadow. Thunder rumbled. Blue lightning filtered through the window glass, shining directly on Victoria's face. In that moment, Martha saw the truth behind the smile. Something cold, hard, and sharp, as steel. Victoria said nothing more. She simply stood still, her hand still resting on the edge of the tub. Her eyes fixed on the crying babies clinging to Martha's arms. The afternoon in Seattle brightened after the long rain. The clouds remained dense, but weak light managed to break through, reflecting on the rain-splattered lawn. Richard's SUV turned onto the stone driveway, tires screeching on the wet surface, leaving trails of gray water. Richard turned off the engine, stepped out, sighing as he loosened his tie. It was rare for him to come home early, driven by his longing for the little ones. In his mind, he imagined Claire bathing the girls in the garden on sunny afternoons, light caught in her hair like honey. He gripped his briefcase strap lightly. Quickening his pace, the sound of running water came from somewhere in the back of the house. Strange. The indoor water supply had been cut off yesterday due to a missed payment. He'd even received a call from the water company this morning. That running water shouldn't be there. Then laughter, two small voices, faint, interrupted, but real. Emma and Olivia. Among those sounds was a familiar female voice, light and steady like a lullaby. Richard's heart warmed for a moment, but just a few steps later, all warmth vanished. He turned beside the dripping rose bushes and stopped dead. Victoria was crouched beside an old metal tub. Faint steam rose softly. The two babies were naked, shivering violently in the tub, their skin reddened, their lips beginning to turn blue. Victoria poured water over their shoulders, her eyes terrifyingly calm. "What the hell, Victoria?" Richard roared, his voice hoarse. "What are you doing?" Victoria jumped, her hand freezing mid-motion. She turned, her face darkened by steam. "Richard, She took a deep breath, trying to maintain composure. "The indoor water was cut off, so I'm just heating water to bathe them." "I didn't want them to get dirty." "Heated?" He growled, stepping forward. His hand touched the edge of the tub. The water was ice cold. The chill burned his skin, leaving a stinging sensation. He lifted Olivia, quickly wrapping her in a towel from the chair, looking at Victoria as if she were a stranger. "You think this is okay?" Richard demanded, his voice rising, each word sharply accented. "It's barely 50 degrees outside, and the wind is colder than lake water." "You want these babies to get sick?" "No," Victoria stammered. "No?" He stepped closer. "You wanted to prove you're a better mother than Claire, didn't you?" Victoria opened her mouth to argue, but no words came. Her eyes flickered, revealing something vulnerable and dangerous. "Don't bring her into this. You would never compare me to the deceased. Then what is this?" He said, voice choked. "Is this how you heal this family? Letting my daughters shiver like this?" "I'm sorry," Victoria said, lowering her head. Tears ran down her face, her voice fading. "I really just wanted to do the right thing." I saw them enjoying the bath. They were smiling. Smiling? Richard almost laughed bitterly. "Don't you see they're turning blue?" He held Olivia tightly in his arms, his chest heaving. "I don't need anyone to teach me how to be a father." In this moment, Richard finally sees the danger. But it's too late to prevent what's already happened. Here's my question for you. Did Richard react fast enough? Or should he have noticed something was wrong sooner? Many viewers have different opinions about this. Drop a comment. What would you have done? Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because things are about to get much darker. Footsteps echoed from the kitchen door. Martha came running out, frightened. "Mr. Sullivan? What's happening?" Richard didn't respond. He lifted both girls, wrapping them firmly in towels, his hands shaking with rage. Martha looked around, saw the steaming tub heat rising in dense columns. She touched it cautiously, then quickly pulled her hand back. "My God!" she gasped. Victoria turned, quickly wiping away tears. "I told you I didn't mean to hurt them." "But Martha, Enough!" Richard snapped, cutting her off. The sound echoed in the empty courtyard. "I don't want to hear anymore." He turned his back, carrying both babies straight into the house. Martha watched silently, her heart clenching. Outside, Victoria still stood in the same place, her hands gripping her dress until her knuckles turned white. When the back door closed, she took a deep breath. The tears disappeared as quickly as they'd appeared. "Fine," she said. Her face turned icy, her eyes darkening. "Fine," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You'll see that I'm right. In my own way." She bent down, staring at the tub. The water's surface reflected a dull sky and her own distorted image, blurred by heat. Victoria stood, lifting the tub silently and heading toward the rose bushes. Martha watched from the kitchen window. Her hand frozen mid-air. Outside, Victoria knelt beside the flower bed, using a small shovel to dig a hole. Instead of pouring out the water as usual, she poured the entire contents of the tub into the hole, then buried the tub itself. Each shovelful of earth fell to the ground with a heavy, slow sound. Martha gasped. She tried to run out but stopped, fear swelling in her chest. She could only stand there, staring through the fogged glass. Outside, clouds gathered again. The wind picked up, sweeping the back courtyard, shaking the wet rose bushes. Victoria covered the tub with the last layer of earth, patting it lightly with her foot. Then she straightened, brushing off her hands, her eyes fixed on the house. Behind her, Richard looked down from the upstairs window, seeing Victoria bent over the garden. He sighed, his anger still lingering. But then Claire's voice from years ago echoed in his mind. Never let your anger blind you. He shook his head slightly, holding the two babies close under the blanket. It's okay. Daddy's here now. Below, Victoria looked up. The faint evening light hit her face, a ray of brightness crossing her eyes. A thin smile spread across her lips, devoid of any warmth. She turned, walking slowly back to the house, closing the back door behind her. The morning in Seattle was covered in fog. The damp, cold air seeped through the window panes, condensing into small droplets. In the second-floor bedroom, the two little ones slept soundly. Their cheeks pink again after a long night. Their breathing steady like the wind. Richard sat on the edge of the bed, his eyes fixed on his daughter's small hand, gripping the edge of the blanket firmly. He let out a sigh that sounded like a heavy burden lifted. All night, the image of Victoria bent over the tub had haunted him. Her eyes when he yelled at her, the tear rolling down her cheek. Her trembling hands. Thinking now, he felt he'd been unnecessarily harsh. She was only trying to help, he told himself. He gently adjusted the blanket for the two babies and left the room. The sound of a spoon hitting a pot echoed from the kitchen, mixing with the faint smell of coffee. Richard stopped in the doorway. Victoria had her back to him, her hair neatly pulled back, wearing a white shirt, her movements slow and steady as she cleaned the table. The kitchen was softly lit, remarkably neat. She turned, a thin smile like a thread on her face. Up early? Couldn't sleep, Richard replied, approaching. He looked around, seeing the steaming cup of coffee and a slice of toast already on the plate. Victoria. He hesitated, taking a deep breath. About yesterday, I overreacted. I apologize. Victoria remained silent for a few seconds, as if waiting for him to continue. Then she placed the coffee cup in front of him, her voice so light it was barely audible. I understand. Any mother would be afraid of losing her children, even if they're not biological. Richard froze. That sentence felt like a needle piercing his defenses. He looked at her, not knowing what else to say. In that moment, Victoria looked truly kind, truly understanding. Part of him surrendered. Martha passed through the hallway, seeing the scene from afar. Victoria's eyes briefly directed at her, stopped for a second, then smiled at Richard. The smile no longer carried pain, but self-assurance. Martha frowned, a chill running down her spine. Richard forgives Victoria after just one night. But Martha knows something is still wrong. This is where the story splits. Richard's hope versus Martha's intuition. Who do you believe? Is Victoria genuinely sorry, or is this all manipulation? Comment your gut feeling right now. Don't think about it too much, just trust your instinct. Like Anna will have to do. And if you're already suspicious about Victoria, please like this video and subscribe. Throughout the day, the atmosphere in the house changed. Victoria was kind, meticulous, and incredibly sweet. She sang the two babies lullabies, strange, soft, and steady, and read them stories with a voice as sweet as honey. Emma and Olivia smiled more often, their eyes less fearful. Richard passed by his home office, stopping at the doorframe, watching the scene. His heart softened. Maybe he'd been wrong after all. He entered, lightly placing a hand on Victoria's shoulder. You're working so hard. Thank you. She looked up, her smile kind but not quite happy. This is what I should do. I just want us to become a real family. In the afternoon, she cooked a magnificent dinner: beef stew, mashed potatoes, butternut squash soup, all his favorite dishes. As Martha brought out the trays, Victoria said quietly, "You can take the night off. I'll handle the cleanup." Her voice was soft, but her gaze made it impossible for Martha to refuse. After dinner, Richard sat reading the newspaper in the living room. Victoria brought him a thick stack of papers, carefully placing them in front of him. "I have some ideas. Could you take a look?" Richard took them, his eyes quickly scanning the neat handwriting. Childcare plan, nutrition menu, charity, fundraising project for families who've lost mothers. He looked up, his eyes viewing Victoria differently. "You think through everything so thoroughly." Victoria sat beside him, a fleeting smile appearing. "I just want us to be a perfect family, Richard. A place where the two little ones can grow up happy, lacking nothing." He felt her, his voice softening. "I'm grateful you always think of the children. Maybe I should trust you more." "You don't need your trust," she replied softly, something indecipherable flashing in her eyes. "I just need you to see." Martha passed, catching the end of the conversation, and stopped slightly. She glanced at the coffee table, where the stack of papers lay open. A small line visible in the corner of one page. Proposed staff reduction to optimize budget. Housekeeper. Gardener. Security. She slowly backed away. Her heart heavy. Night fell, and the Sullivan house sank into silence. The two babies slept soundly in their room, the warm glow of the nightlight casting shadows on the ceiling. Richard lay in his study, eyes closed from exhaustion. Across the hallway, Victoria sat in front of her laptop, screen light reflecting on her cheek. She typed the final lines of an email. Phase 1 complete. "He believes it." The cursor blinked on the screen for a few seconds. Then she pressed send. A faint whoosh echoed in the quiet room. Victoria closed the laptop, leaned back in her chair, a slow smile spreading across her face. Outside the window, wind whispered through the rose bushes. Beneath the damp earth, in the corner of the garden, the metal tub lay motionless, silent, cold, and unknown to anyone. It was the first marker of a terrible wrongdoing. But upstairs, a faint child's cry was heard. Victoria opened her eyes, listened for a second, then stood up. A rare early summer sun spread over the mansion. The doorbell rang in the sun-drenched courtyard, echoing in the still air. The front door opened. In the doorway, a young woman waited, Anna Montgomery, 23 years old. Her beige coat was dusty from the road, her hair slightly disheveled by the wind, but her eyes were bright and determined. In her hand, an old canvas bag with worn straps. Richard came down the stairs, a steaming cup of coffee in his hand. He was surprised to see a stranger in the house. "Excuse me, are you?" Victoria appeared just behind him, her movements slow, her smile soft as fog. "This is Anna Montgomery. She be taking Martha's place. I asked her to come this morning." Richard frowned slightly, his voice revealing a hint of surprise. "I thought Martha was staying until the end of the week?" Victoria took his hand, her voice low and gentle. "She wanted to leave early. She's been caring for the babies for a month. I think she was tired. Anna used to work at a childcare center and has an auxiliary nursing certificate. I believe she's a good fit." Anna bowed her head, hands clasped together. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Sullivan." Her voice was soft, calm, mixed with slight tension. Richard nodded, polite but still slightly cautious. From the top of the stairs, Martha slowly descended, dragging a small suitcase. Her eyes met Anna's, stopping. They looked at each other for a few seconds, as if something tacit passed between them. When Martha approached, she said quietly, just loud enough for Anna to hear, "Just be careful with her." Then she turned and left without looking back. Victoria watched her go, a slight grimace on her lips. "She's older, not used to new ways. Don't pay her any mind." But Anna just nodded softly, following Victoria into the house. Her eyes discreetly scanned the space, the vast mansion, the gleaming hardwood floors, everything so clean it felt sterile. The next morning, the sky was clear and bright, a rare sight in Seattle. Anna began her first tasks, washing clothes, cooking breakfast, tidying the nursery. She did everything meticulously. Didn't say much, but always smiled when looking at the two babies. Emma and Olivia seemed to like her instantly. Every time she sang softly, both would laugh, their laughter filling the room. Richard passed, stopped at the door, and smiled faintly. "You seem great with the little ones." Anna replied quietly. "I just think they need to be talked to more, Mr. Sullivan. At this age, children understand more than we think." Richard nodded, his gaze softening momentarily. From the kitchen below, Victoria looked up, observing the scene through the door crack. Her hand gripping the coffee cup froze when Emma let out a louder laugh. She clenched her hand hard, a faint cracking sound audible. Anna quickly entered, a practiced smile plastered on her face. "Anna, you don't need to hold them that long. Children can get spoiled if carried all day." Anna politely bowed her head. "Yes, ma'am." But before laying the baby in the crib, she softly kissed her forehead. That gesture made Victoria look at her subtly. The smile disappeared for a fleeting moment. In the following days, the house became eerily quiet. Anna worked like a shadow, mopping floors, washing clothes, watching the babies. But every time she tried to get close to the girls, Victoria was there, standing on the stairs or sitting in the kitchen corner, her eyes watching like a silent warden. Anna noticed Victoria never let anyone else prepare the baby's food. Every morning, she mixed the milk herself, allowing no help, not even from Anna. Once, Anna asked lightly, "Can I help you with the morning milk? I just want to learn how you care for them." Victoria looked at her, the smile not reaching her eyes. "Not necessary. I'm used to it. You just need to clean the rooms." Richard was constantly busy, usually leaving early in the morning and returning late at night. He handed over all household matters, schedules, even bills, to Victoria. "I trust you can handle it," he said. "Thank you," she only replied. "I always do my best." One afternoon, the setting sun hit the home office wall. Anna passed, intending to bring up laundry, when she saw Victoria leaning over the safe. Anna stopped dead. Victoria opened the safe, took out a thick envelope, quickly checked it, and closed the safe. When she turned, seeing Anna, she stopped for a few seconds. "Your shift over?" "Yes, I was just bringing up laundry." Victoria smiled, placing the envelope on the desk. "Payroll money. Anna, you know how to keep a secret, right?" Their eyes met. A long, heavy second passed. Anna nodded slightly. "I won't say anything, ma'am." "That's a good girl," Victoria replied, her voice even. Then she left. That night, Anna sat by the small window in the service room, the desk lamp illuminating the worn page of her journal. She wrote, "Everything in this house is too quiet, too clean, but unnatural. It's like someone is trying too hard to make it seem normal." She looked up. A soft lullaby echoed from the nursery, her own voice, recorded on a device Victoria had installed to help the babies get used to her voice. Anna shivered. Upstairs, Victoria stood by her bedroom window, wine swirling in her glass. The red evening light hit the wall, casting a warm tone on her face. But when Anna's recorded voice sang, Victoria's eyes slowly darkened. She set down the wine glass, her voice low, just loud enough to hear herself. "If you think you can steal their attention," a heavy breath, then the complete whisper, "you'll regret it." Victoria took out her phone, opening a secret messaging app. Her finger typed quickly, "The new employee is getting too familiar. Need to change plans." She pressed send, then turned off the screen. The room's light followed suit. Only the faint red glow from the tip of a lit cigarette remained, reflecting on her cold face. Below, Anna continued writing, unaware that at that very moment, the real game had begun. Victoria sat at the dining table, back straight, wearing a white shirt. The Seattle Times spread before her. On the front page appeared Richard's photo in a gray suit, a confident smile. The bold headline read, "Sullivan Real Estate takes off. CEO Richard Sullivan invited to key economic conference in Washington state. A corner of Victoria's lips curved upward. She touched her finger lightly on the photograph. Excellent. Richard, you're finally back where you belong. And everything is exactly where I want it. Footsteps echoed from the staircase. Anna carried a breakfast tray, the smell of baked goods and fresh milk floating through the kitchen. She greeted softly. Good morning, Mrs. Hayes. Victoria didn't look up, only responded in a low voice. Today I'll mix the milk myself. Go mop the floors. Anna stopped slightly, placing the tray on the table. Yes, ma'am. She turned, heading toward the hallway. But before disappearing, her eyes glanced quickly through the door crack. Victoria opened a tall cabinet, taking out a small glass vial with a scraped label. She shook it gently, listening to the liquid inside slosh. Then she tilted the vial, dripping a few clear drops into the baby bottle. Each drop fell, dissolving quickly without leaving a trace. Anna swallowed hard. Her hand gripped the mop handle until her knuckles turned white. Her heart pounded loudly, echoing in her throat. She took a deep breath, pretending to turn away as if she'd seen nothing. But in her mind, she began connecting the pieces of suspicion. The children sleeping too much, the smell of the milk every morning, and Victoria's expression every time someone touched the bottle. Richard came down from upstairs, phone in hand, his voice urgent. I have to rush to the office. There's a problem with the lakefront project. Victoria set down the milk, her smile bright as sunshine. Go ahead. I'll handle everything here at home. She added, her voice so soft it was almost pleading. Come back early, my love. Richard nodded, kissing her forehead before leaving. When the sound of the door closing echoed, the smile on Victoria's face slowly disappeared. She turned, her eyes changing completely cold, sharp, and calculating. At midday, sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting long rays of light on the floor. The two babies had been given their milk and placed in their cribs. Anna was tidying the living room, but the sound of Olivia's wheezing breath made her stop. She approached. The little one lay motionless, her face flushed, breathing with difficulty. She gently nudged her. Olivia, sweetheart? No response. Emma, lying beside her, also slept deeply, her lips pale, her eyelids trembling slightly. Olivia! Anna panicked, lifting Olivia from the crib and running toward the living room. Mrs. Hayes! Mrs. Hayes! Victoria appeared in the doorway, still in her neat dress, her face disturbingly serene. What's wrong? The babies won't wake up. I keep shaking them. Anna spoke rapidly, nervously. Victoria approached calmly, her voice light as if discussing lunch. They're just sleeping. You're too stressed. But their breathing is strange. Look. Give her to me. Victoria extended her hand, taking the baby. She held Olivia close, soothing her softly, humming. The melody was strange, slow, drawn out. It wasn't clear if it was a lullaby or a whisper. The room suddenly felt cold. Anna backed away, watching the scene, afraid to breathe. That humming gave her chills, as if something dark was hidden beneath each note. See? Victoria said, her eyes still on the baby. They just need to sleep more. Anna nodded slightly, but her heart still pounded hard. As Victoria turned away, she noticed a faint stain of what looked like white powder near the woman's neck, stuck to the edge of her dress. Night fell. The wind blew fiercely, rattling the window frame. Anna lay in her room, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. She tried to tell herself she was just overthinking. But then footsteps echoed on the hardwood floor. Slow, steady, as if someone was pacing through the hallway. She sat up, grabbed her flashlight, and slipped out silently. The weak beam illuminated the hallway, casting light down the stairs. Below, a small strip of yellow light shone from the kitchen. Anna descended, heart pounding hard. She opened the kitchen door, and cold air rushed out. Victoria wasn't there. Everything was tidy. But a cabinet door was slightly ajar. She opened it. In the corner of the cupboard, among the spice jars, sat a small bottle without a label, cloudy glass with some clear liquid inside. Anna opened the cap. An acrid smell, similar to the sedatives from the hospital where she once worked. She took a sharp breath, her hands trembling. Then she quickly pushed the bottle into her coat pocket. Footsteps echoed from behind. Anna froze. Anna? What are you doing? Anna now has proof. She's terrified. She's holding a dangerous secret. This is the moment everything changes. So I'm asking you, if you were Anna, would you confront Victoria? Would you tell Richard? Or would you be too afraid? Comment your answer. This is the most important decision in the story. Subscribe now because the next scene will make you question everything about trust and who to believe. The voice sounded. Just behind her slow and clear. She turned. Victoria stood there, a white robe reaching her ankles, her hair slightly disheveled, her face half lit, half shadowed by the kitchen light. Mrs. Hayes, you're awake. I just came for water. Victoria approached, one step at a time. A strong, cold perfume enveloped the air. Insomnia? Anna nodded, trying to keep her voice steady. Yes, I have trouble sleeping. Victoria smiled, stopping just in front of her, leaning slightly. Her hand touched Anna's shoulder. It's okay, she said, her voice soft but weighted, making the listener want to back away. Just make sure you don't accidentally drink something you shouldn't. The statement landed soft as silk but cold as steel. Victoria walked away, her tall figure casting a long shadow on the hardwood floor. Her bedroom door closed softly, almost soundless. Anna stood there for a long time. The faint yellow kitchen light illuminated her pale face. She pulled her hand from her pocket, looking at the bottle in her palm, small, icy, but with an inexplicable weight. She took a deep breath, her heart hammering. Then she whispered to herself, I need to know what this is. The light went out. The kitchen plunged into darkness. Anna stood still, only listening to the sound of the wind outside. Her hand still gripped the bottle, trembling. The next morning the air was fresh but somber. Seattle was covered by fine mist, moisture rising from the surface of Lake Washington like a cold layer of smoke. Weak sunlight filtered through the tree canopy, shining on the small window where Anna was curled up, her eyes fixed on the glass bottle in her hand. Anna hadn't slept all night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Victoria's face in the yellow light, her low voice like a blade grazing her neck. Anna held the bottle firmly, the cold sensation running down her spine. She decided she had to know the truth. She quickly put on her coat, hid the bottle in her pocket, and left the house before the sun had fully risen. The cold morning air helped her think clearly. The Walgreens pharmacy near Lake Washington had just opened. Interior light cast a faint yellow glow. The elderly pharmacist looked up when he saw her enter, his voice hoarse. Can I help you? Anna placed the bottle on the counter, her voice small but firm. Can someone tell me what this is? I found it at my employer's house. The man put on his glasses, tilted the bottle under the light, and frowned. Diazepam, he said slowly. A powerful sedative. Should never be used on infants. Even in adults, excessive use can cause respiratory depression. Anna's chest tightened. She swallowed hard. So if a child took a small dose daily, what would happen? They'd gradually weaken. Sleep a lot. Have slower reflexes. Their bodies wouldn't develop properly. He paused, his eyes serious. Where did you find this? Anna gripped her coat pocket tightly. In a place I can't say. At least not yet. The pharmacist watched her run out the door, murmuring softly, that girl is getting into trouble. Before we continue, please take a moment to leave a comment about this story and rate it from 1 to 10. How are you feeling? If there's anything you'd like to share, I'm always here to listen. I hope you find a moment of peace and reflection as you follow this healing story and its journey of courage and justice. When Anna returned to the mansion, the sun had risen over the lake, casting golden light through the hallway. In the living room, Richard was adjusting his tie, ready for his first major speech in years. Mr. Sullivan, Anna called, almost running. I need to talk to you. It's very important. Richard turned, surprised. What's wrong? But before she could speak, Victoria appeared from the kitchen, a dark blue dress hugging her body, her smile bright as sunshine. "Richard, let me handle Anna. She seems tired. Maybe she's not used to the schedule here." "No, Anna tried to speak, but Richard raised a hand, his eyes glued to his watch. "I'm late. Anna, we'll talk later." She could only watch him rush out the door, the black car pulling away from the gate, leaving a faint trail of smoke in the air. Victoria stood behind her, holding a cup of tea, her eyes fixed on Anna. "You seem worried. Have some tea. It might help." Anna backed away, shaking her head. "Thanks. I'm not thirsty." "Not thirsty?" Victoria smiled slightly, placing the teacup on the table. "Well then, get to work. I don't like anyone in this house being idle." Throughout that day, the mansion felt suffocated by a thick atmosphere. Anna worked like a ghost, mopping, washing clothes, watching the babies. But every time she tried to approach the girls, Victoria was there, standing on the stairs or sitting in the kitchen corner, her eyes watching like a silent jailer. The two babies slept more these days, ate less. But every time Anna saw Victoria mixing the milk, she felt something was happening that she couldn't control. As evening fell, Victoria said she was going out to buy dinner. When the door closed, Anna immediately took her phone, calling the pharmacist. "It's me, Anna. Can you send me a report on that medicine bottle? I need evidence to protect the children." "Yes, I'll email it right away." "But you must be careful. That kind of medicine." The door burst open, cutting off the call. Anna jumped, almost dropping her phone. Victoria entered, the evening sun hitting her face, half light, half shadow. "Who are you calling?" Anna tried to stay calm, quickly putting the phone in her pocket. "Just a friend." Victoria didn't respond. She approached slowly, her steps steady. When she was only an arm's length away, she quickly snatched the phone, looking at the screen. The sent message was still visible. "Report on Stepmom sent to Anna Montgomery." Her eyes flashed with fury. Without saying anything, Victoria threw the phone to the floor, stepping on it with her heel. A fragile cracking sound echoed. Glass fragments scattered, reflecting light like small blades. Anna backed away, her chest tight with fear. Victoria leaned in, her voice low, each word sounding like a hiss. "Listen carefully. Never try to scare him. Don't interfere with what you don't understand. If you damage my happiness..." She looked up, her face so close Anna could clearly see the thin blue veins in her neck. "I'll make you disappear before anyone even remembers your name." After speaking, Victoria straightened, adjusting her collar as if nothing had happened. Then she turned and left. The door slammed shut, leaving a heavy echo. Anna knelt, picking up the shattered phone. Her finger traced the broken glass, blood oozing out. She clenched her hand, her breathing ragged, tears falling on the gleaming hardwood floor. A drop of blood fell, spreading red on the floor. She looked at it, a small red dot in the cold light. Then she whispered quietly, "No, I won't give up." Outside, the sun set over Lake Washington. Inside the house, Victoria stood by the second-floor window, looking toward the courtyard. The wind gently moved the curtains, the last rays of light shining on the faint smile on her lips. The Seattle night was quiet. Thick clouds covered almost the entire moon. Streetlights reflected in puddles outside the gate of the Sullivan mansion. The black car slid toward the entrance, the engine silencing slowly, leaving only the faint hum of cooling metal. Richard stepped out, adjusting his tie. The keynote speech had been a resounding success, praised by the press. But instead of pride, he felt an inexplicable heaviness, a vague premonition that something wasn't right at home. He entered. The sound of the door closing echoed dryly. The house was unusually dark, with only a small light on in the kitchen. He called out, "Victoria? Anna?" No response. Only the ticking of the clock and the whistling of wind through the door cracks. As he walked toward the center of the kitchen, something made him stop. On the gleaming hardwood floor was a small stain of dried blood, dark, spread in a distorted drop shape. He bent down, touching it lightly with his fingertip. Blood. Real blood. A cold wave ran down his spine. He called louder. Anna? Where are you? A faint sound came from the storage room beside the kitchen. He opened the door, and dim light illuminated the small room. Anna sat on the floor, her hand wrapped in tissues, blood seeping through. Beside her lay the shattered phone, glass fragments scattered everywhere. Richard rushed over. My God! What happened? Anna quickly hid her hand, looking down. Nothing, sir. I dropped a glass. Cut my hand a bit. Richard looked around. There was no glass, only phone fragments and some scratches on the floor. He frowned. But before he could ask more, Victoria's voice came from behind, soft and smooth as silk. Sweetheart, don't worry. She dropped the baby's bottles, then blamed me for scolding her. Richard turned. Victoria stood in the doorway, her hair gently loose, light casting her face in a way that made her look like an innocent angel. But her eyes sharp as needles. What did you say? He asked. She looked down, her voice soft as wind. No, that's not true, sir. I didn't. You dare argue? Victoria took another step, her voice losing its softness. I told you from the beginning, in this house, everyone must maintain order. Richard raised a hand to intervene. Enough, Victoria. Don't raise your voice. The air froze. Anna looked at him, her eyes teary, showing a mixture of fear and desperation. I just wanted to talk to Mr. Sullivan about the babies. Victoria was faster, cutting her off with a casually soft tone. You know, she even made a secret call this afternoon. I didn't want to mention it, but it seemed to be to a pharmacy. Richard turned to Anna. Is that true? Yes. Anna took a deep breath, trembling. I asked about certain medicine. I found it in the house. Medicine? What are you talking about? Richard narrowed his eyes, his voice skeptical. Victoria sighed, placing a hand on his shoulder, her voice like consoling a child. See? She's becoming paranoid. She said I was trying to affect her daughters. Even called a pharmacy to investigate me. Richard pulled away his hand, looking at Anna. In his eyes was pity mixed with exhaustion. He was too exhausted to argue. Anna, I don't want more problems. Go rest. We'll talk tomorrow. Anna opened her mouth, but words choked in her throat. She only looked at him, then at Victoria, who wore a subtle smile. The smile of a victor. Richard left the room, his shadow disappearing up the stairs. The sound of his footsteps gradually faded. Only the two women remained. Victoria stood still for a few seconds, listening to the ticking clock in the empty kitchen. Then she turned to Anna, her lips curving slowly. Don't worry. I'll make sure you rest. Permanently. She opened a drawer near the sink, taking out a set of keys. Her eyes stopped on the smallest key with a faint label. Basement. She spun it between her fingers, a thin smile appearing. Outside, thunder rumbled. Lightning flashed through the window, reflecting in Victoria's eyes, two cold flashes like metal. She walked away, her shoes clicking constantly on the hardwood floor. Fading into the darkness of the hallway, Anna remained seated, motionless, gripping her wound. Blood filtered through the tissue bandage, dripping on the floor where the old bloodstain wasn't quite dry yet. A strong gust of wind from the lake blew, gently swaying the curtains. In that moment, amid the cold seeping through the door, Anna distinctly felt one thing. Someone in this house was about to disappear. Rain pounded the roof tiles. Wind howled through the door cracks, creating chilling sounds. In her small upstairs room, Anna lay on her side, eyes closed but mind awake. Her hand was still bandaged, throbbing weakly. Every time she tried to sleep, the image of Victoria with the basement key reappeared, her smile blurred in the lightning. She opened her eyes. Breathing hard. Click. Then. Amid the silence, a small sound click. The hallway door opened silently. Bare feet touched the hardwood floor softly. Slow, rhythmic, moving toward the nursery. Anna held her breath. She sat up, straining to listen. A cold draft from the door crack seeped in, gently moving the curtain. But beneath the door, yellow light shone from the nursery. Strange. She was sure she'd turned off the light after putting the babies to bed. Her heart pounded hard. She slipped out on tiptoe, each step making the hardwood floor creak faintly, betraying her. As she approached, she heard a very faint tinkling, the sound of a bottle cap twisting. Anna pushed the door open. In the dim light, Victoria stood beside the baby's crib, her shadow stretching long on the wall. In her hand was the small medicine bottle cap open, clear liquid sloshing at the bottom. "What are you doing?" Anna whispered. Then she didn't stop to think. She lunged forward, the sound of a chair falling. A loud collision echoed throughout the room. The bottle dropped, shattering. Liquid spread across the floor. Then Victoria screamed, her voice sharp as a knife. "You're crazy!" Both babies woke with a start. Emma burst into hysterical crying, her sobs filling the thick air. Olivia woke too, whimpering beside her sister. Anna held both babies, trembling as she backed away. "What were you going to give them? Tell me." "Shut up." Victoria lunged, grabbing the shattered bottle. A piece of glass cut her hand. Blood dripped on the floor, spreading red in the light. The crying echoed throughout the floor. In the adjacent room, Richard jumped up, ran through the hallway, flipping the light switch. White light flooded the floor, showing the chaotic scene clearly. Victoria sat on the floor, her hand bleeding, hair disheveled, face streaked with tears. Anna knelt nearby, hugging the two babies tightly, trembling. "What is going on?" Richard almost shouted. "Anna!" Victoria pointed, her voice anguished. "She's crazy. She burst into the room while I was trying to console the babies." Anna gasped, tears flowing. "No!" She was going to give them medicine. "I saw it with my own eyes." Richard looked at the floor-shattered glass, colorless liquid spilled, both babies still sobbing hysterically. "Do you have any proof?" Victoria choked, tears running down her cheeks. "I was just trying to get your daughters to sleep. I love them like they're my own. You know that." She turned to Anna, her voice tight as wire. "Do you have any evidence?" "That bottle right there." Anna pointed, but Victoria was faster, subtly using her foot to push the last piece of glass with the label still intact under the carpet. The action was so smooth it was almost invisible. "There's nothing there," Victoria said, her voice sounding like a sob. "See? She's making things up." Richard bent down, only seeing anonymous fragments and a few drops of colorless liquid. He picked up the glass shard label completely peeled off. Anger, exhaustion, and confusion intertwined. He grabbed the glass fragment. "I don't want to argue anymore. Both of you, get out of here. Right now. Let me calm the babies." Anna stepped forward slowly, trying to touch his arm. "Please, sir. Please have them blood tested. If I'm wrong, I'll leave forever." Victoria interrupted with a weak smile, just enough for Anna to see. "You talk too much." Richard turned his back, holding the two little ones, trying to calm them. He no longer knew whom to trust. Behind him, the two women stood facing each other, one trembling, the other cold as ice. Blood from Victoria's hand dripped on the white floor, each drop landing exactly where Anna had left her first drop of blood. She looked at the floor, a flash of coldness in her eyes. Then she bent down, softly using her foot to push all the shattered glass under the white carpet. When Richard looked up, Victoria had bandaged her hand with a scarf. Her face softened, her voice calm. "I was just worried about the babies." But Anna stood still, watching her, knowing with certainty that the truth was being buried right in front of him, along with the only evidence that could save the two babies. Outside, thunder roared. Lightning flashed, and wind whipped the curtains. A bolt of light cut through the air, shining directly on Victoria's face, illuminating it for a moment, beautiful, serene, and terribly cold. Underscore in the courtyard of Seattle Grace Hospital. Richard's car screeched to a halt in front of the emergency entrance. The door flew open and he rushed out, holding both little ones firmly, Emma and Olivia. Their small bodies burned with heat, heads drooping against his chest, breathing labored. "Help me! Someone, please help!" His voice, hoarse and tense, shattered the quiet morning air. A nurse immediately wheeled over a gurney. A team of doctors rushed out from the guard room. Anna followed, her face pale, her hands still bandaged with dried blood. She clutched her chest, her heart beating so violently it was almost painful. The two babies were wheeled into the emergency room. The door closed, the staff only signs swinging in the cold wind. Richard stood there, shaking all over. His shirt was damp with rain and sweat. Everything spun around him, the sound of machines, footsteps, distant children's cries. He wondered what he'd done to let things go this far. A moment later, Dr. Garcia, a man in his 50s with round glasses, emerged. His face was grave. "Mr. Sullivan?" Richard stepped forward, his voice choked. "My daughters, how are they?" Dr. Garcia opened a file. "We ran blood tests. The results show that the amount of diazepam, a sedative, in the baby's blood is several times higher than the acceptable limit." Space seemed to freeze. Richard looked up, eyes glazed. "What did you say?" "Diazepam," the doctor emphasized. "A sedative used for adults with anxiety or insomnia. This dose can cause central nervous system depression in young children." Richard gasped, his hands gripping the chair railing firmly. The image of the shattered bottle, Anna's desperate screams last night, and Victoria's tear-filled eyes overlapped in his mind. Dr. Garcia continued. "The babies have been given fluids and detoxification treatment. Fortunately, they were discovered in time. But you must prepare yourself, they'll need to stay under observation for a few days." He looked directly into Richard's eyes. "We're required to notify the authorities, as this may constitute intentional harm to minors." Richard nodded, his throat tight. The room door burst open. Victoria entered, her face ashen, hair disheveled, eyes filled with tears. "My God!" she cried, running to the bedside where Emma lay deeply asleep. "What happened to my daughters? Richard, tell me. Why are they like this?" Richard didn't respond, only looked at her, his gaze cold and deep, devoid of any remaining trust. "You're not going to say anything?" Victoria tried to grab his hand, but he pulled away. Dr. Garcia observed the scene, then spoke. "Mrs. Hayes, it's possible you may need to stay and cooperate with the investigation. The test results have confirmed the presence of diazepam in the baby's blood." Victoria froze. "You're accusing me?" "No one is accusing you," the doctor said softly. "We're just following procedure." She turned to Richard, her voice trembling. "Don't you trust me?" "I'm their mother." Richard closed his eyes, his voice low. "No, I only trust the results." A long silence. Only the constant beeping of the heart monitor could be heard. About 20 minutes later, as police were being called, Anna entered with a middle-aged man, the pharmacist she'd met. He looked tired, his coat damp from rain, but his eyes were resolute. "Mr. Sullivan." Anna approached, her voice still trembling but clear. "This is Mr. Hensley, the pharmacist from Union Pharmacy. He has evidence regarding the medicine bottle that Mrs. Victoria used." Victoria backed away, her eyes moving rapidly. "She's making things up." "Richard, don't listen to her." The pharmacist opened his briefcase, taking out a paper with a red seal. "This is the report confirming the batch of diazepam sold 2 months ago. The batch number matches the bottle casing Miss Anna found." He looked at Richard. "And the buyer's name, it's Victoria Hayes." The room seemed to hold its breath. Richard looked at Victoria. She took another step back, her lips trembling. This is it. The moment of truth. Richard finally sees the evidence. Many of you will have tears in your eyes right now. Some of you will feel anger. Others will feel relief that the children are safe. What are you feeling in this moment? Comment. Did you suspect Victoria from the beginning, or did she fool you too? And if this story has affected you, please like this video and subscribe for more stories about courage and survival. No, that's impossible. I only bought it for myself. I have insomnia. You know that. Then why was the bottle in the nursery? Richard asked, his voice echoing against the walls. She framed me. Victoria shrieked, pointing at Anna. You want to separate us. Steal him. You always looked at him with those eyes. You're blind not to see it. Anna shook her head, tears falling. I only wanted to protect the children. Dr. Garcia intervened, his voice stern. Mrs. Hayes, that's enough. Police are on their way. We're required to keep you here for questioning. Victoria stood motionless. Her face changed rapidly from panic to emptiness. Her eyes looked around, then stopped at her own hand. Her wedding ring glittered in the hospital light. She spun it, as if calculating an escape. The door burst open. Martha entered, breathless, wearing an old coat, hair soaked. I just flew in from Portland. I knew something was wrong. Martha. Richard looked at her, his voice tense. She approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. I didn't have a chance to tell you before I left. I kept the backyard security camera system running. It still works. I think now is the time to watch it. Richard looked directly into her eyes, then nodded. Turn it on. Martha took out her phone, opening the video. The screen showed a blurry image filmed by the infrared camera in the corner of the backyard. They saw Victoria sitting beside the metal tub, pouring medicine into the baby bottles, stirring. The air in the hospital room thickened. The hissing of the air conditioner mixed with the pounding hearts in everyone's chests. Victoria stumbled backward, hitting the wall. No, that wasn't me. That's fabricated. She made it. Shut up. Richard interrupted, his voice cracking with rage. How blind was I? I let you live in my house, touch my daughters, kiss their foreheads, every night. He clenched his fist, but tears welled up. Claire would never forgive me. Victoria broke into tears, kneeling on the floor. But in those wet eyes, there was no longer pain, only calculation slowly fading. She spoke softly, almost a whisper. You don't understand. Without me, you'd be nothing. Dr. Garcia signaled a nurse. Outside the hallway, the constant sound of police footsteps echoed, approaching. 2 officers entered. Red and blue lights from the police car shone through the window. Reflecting on the hospital wall, one of them said, Victoria Hayes. You're under arrest on suspicion of intentional harm to minors. They approached and restrained her. Victoria didn't resist, only looked up at Richard. A slight smile on her lips. A smile that gave him chills. As they led her down the hallway. Flashing lights cast her shadow long and thin on the wall. Before it vanished around the corner, she looked back once more. The door closed. Richard stood still for a long time. Anna approached, gently placing a hand on his arm. The babies will be okay, sir. I believe it. He turned, looking at her for a long time, eyes tired but sincere. Thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have lost everything. 2 weeks flew by. Seattle was in late spring. Cool breezes from Lake Washington carried the scent of lilacs and damp earth. News reports briefly stated, Victoria Hayes, suspect in child harm case, detained awaiting trial. Richard folded the newspaper without reading more. He didn't need more details. Once was enough. He only attended court one morning to see the woman he once believed could help him start over. Victoria appeared in a gray jumpsuit, hair disheveled, eyes distant. As they led her past, they passed side by side without a word. There was nothing left to say. That afternoon, Richard returned to the mansion where it all began. The house looked completely different. No longer dim lights or the cold atmosphere of previous days. Windows gleamed, curtains replaced, front steps bathed in sunlight. But inside him, there was still a strange emptiness, as if he were stepping on his own ashes. From the distance, clear laughter from the 2 little ones echoed. Emma and Olivia were playing in the garden. Anna sat nearby, her shirt sleeves rolled up, hair neatly pulled back. Sunlight shone on the water in the tub, the old metal tub Richard had wanted to discard. Now cleaned by Anna, and used to water plants. He stood there for a moment, watching the scene. Something in his heart released, relief mixed with sadness. Then he walked down, carrying the same tub, now gleaming after being scrubbed. "I think this should be used properly," he said, placing the tub on the grass. Anna looked up, eyes surprised but kind. "I thought you wanted to throw it away." Richard smiled faintly. "I did. But it can still be repurposed if you know how to clean it." She looked at the two babies laughing under the sun, then turned to him. "The first time I saw you, you were protecting them. And I was blind." Anna leaned over, touching the water's surface in the tub. Sunlight reflected brightly on her hand. "The past can still be cleaned if we're willing to wash it," she said softly, her voice like wind. Richard looked at her silently for a long time. His eyes stopped on the small scar on her hand, where blood had oozed on that dark night when she hid the bottle. He remembered every detail, every drop of blood, every sob from the two babies. Everything was behind them. But it was also what saved the father and his two daughters from the abyss. He spoke, voice deep and warm. "Anna, thank you. Not just for saving my daughters, but for saving me from my own blindness." She bowed her head, a slow smile spreading. "You don't owe me anything. I was just doing what any decent person should do." In the afternoon, Martha returned. She crossed the gate, her eyes filling with tears when she saw the two babies run to greet her. Richard hugged her, the first genuine smile since the entire tragedy. The house filled once more with voices, the smell of warm food and bright children's laughter. That night, after dinner, Martha took the babies upstairs. Richard stepped out onto the porch. A gentle breeze blew, carrying the scent of rain-soaked grass. Anna stood by the window, wiping the last trace of dust from the glass. Moonlight shone on her face, kind, calm, but still with traces of sleepless nights. Richard approached, his voice low and soft. "You know, since you arrived, this house finally has a soul. Before that, it was just an empty shell." Anna stopped cleaning, turning. "I only did small things. The children are why this house lights up." Richard looked deeply into her eyes, then spoke soft but firm. "Light doesn't turn on by itself, Anna. It comes from the person who brings it." Anna looked down, smiling, her eyes glistening in the light. He said nothing more, only gently placed his hand over hers. In that moment, everything was still. The past, the trauma, the mistakes all washed away, like the water surface in the tub reflecting moonlight. The next morning, the sky was clear. Sunlight covered the garden. Anna placed the metal tub in the center of the courtyard, filling it with warm water. The two babies laughed, clapping their hands. Small ripples formed on the water's surface. Richard sat beside them, stirring the water gently. "I used to hate this sound," he said. "But now it makes me feel at peace." Anna looked at him, smiling. "Because now you know the water won't hurt anyone anymore. It's cleansing." He nodded. Martha watched from a distance, seeing the two babies play with the water droplets shining under the sun. Light reflected on the tub, on their faces warm, bright, and alive. In the corner of the garden, Martha observed the scene, sighing contentedly. She turned, smiling, knowing that this house, once filled with bad intentions, had found its soul again. As evening fell. The sun setting, Anna put away the toys and Richard rearranged the chairs on the porch. The two babies were asleep, their breathing steady. The light in the nursery glowed yellow, soft and warm. Richard poured 2 cups of tea, handing one to Anna. "I still don't know how to repay you," he said. "Don't repay me," she replied. "Just keep this house bright so the 2 little ones can grow up in peace." Richard looked at her, his eyes lingering for a long time. Then he spoke softly. "Light doesn't just happen, Anna. It comes from the person who carries it." Anna looked down, smiling, her eyes shining in the light. She said nothing more, only gently placed her hand over his. In that moment, everything was tranquil. The past, the pain, the mistakes all washed away, like the water's surface in the tub shining in the moonlight. 3 months had passed since that terrible night. Autumn arrived in Seattle, painting the trees around Lake Washington in shades of amber and crimson. The Sullivan estate no longer felt like a fortress of secrets. It had become a home again. Richard stood in his office, looking at the framed photo on his desk. Claire smiled back at him, holding newborn Emma and Olivia. He touched the glass lightly. "I think you'd approve," he whispered. "I finally learned what you tried to teach me, to see what's real, not what I want to see." A knock on the door. Anna entered, carrying a tray with sandwiches and apple slices, the twins' favorite afternoon snack. "They're asking for you," she said. Emma learned a new word today. "Oh?" Richard's face brightened. "What word?" Anna smiled. "Daddy." His eyes misted over. He followed her downstairs to the living room, where Emma and Olivia were building a tower with colorful blocks. When Emma saw him, she dropped her block and ran over, arms outstretched. "Daddy! Daddy!" "She's QUELED. Richard scooped her up, then lifted Olivia with his other arm. "My beautiful girls," he said, kissing each forehead. "You're getting so big." Martha appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. I made pot roast, your mother's recipe, Mr. Sullivan." "Thank you, Martha. That means a lot." As Martha returned to the kitchen, Richard caught Anna watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read, something between sadness and hope. "What is it?" he asked. Anna hesitated. "I've been thinking. Now that things are stable, maybe you don't need me here anymore. The girls are healthy, Martha's back, and you—" "Stop." Richard set the twins down gently, then turned to face Anna fully. "Don't finish that sentence. You're not just needed here, Anna. You're part of this family now. If you left," he paused, searching for words, "it would feel like losing something precious all over again." Anna's eyes welled with tears. "I don't want to overstep. Victoria said terrible things about me wanting to replace. Victoria was poisoning my daughters." Richard interrupted, his voice firm but gentle. "Everything she said was calculated to manipulate and control. You saved my children's lives. You stood up to her when I was too blind to see the truth. That takes extraordinary courage." He stepped closer. "But more than that, you brought warmth back to this house. You made us laugh again. The girls adore you. Martha trusts you. And He stopped, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. Anna looked up at him, her cheeks flushed. "And you?" "I feel alive again when you're near," he admitted quietly. "For 3 years, I've been going through the motions, drowning in work, afraid to feel anything real. But you reminded me what it means to hope, to trust, to believe in goodness again." A small voice interrupted. "Anna, Daddy." Tower fall. Olivia pointed at the collapsed blocks, her bottom lip trembling. Anna laughed, wiping her eyes. "I'll help you rebuild it." "Sweetheart." She knelt beside Olivia, but Richard knelt too, their shoulders touching as they helped the twins reconstruct their tower. That evening, after the girls were tucked in, Richard and Anna sat on the porch swing, watching the lights shimmer across Lake Washington. The air smelled of pine and wood smoke from a neighbor's fireplace. "Tell me about your family," Richard said. "I realize I know so little about your life before you came here." Anna wrapped her arms around herself. "Not much to tell. My parents died in a car accident when I was 19. No siblings. I worked my way through nursing school, took odd jobs. When I saw your ad for a caregiver, I thought it would just be another position. I never expected." She gestured at the house, the lake hymn. "Never expected what?" "To find a place where I belonged," she said softly. "After my parents died, I felt like I was just drifting. Going through the motions, like you said. But here with the girls, with you and Martha, it feels like coming home." Richard took her hand. "Then stay." "Not as an employee. As family." Anna turned to him, eyes wide. "Richard, I'm not asking you to replace Claire," he said quickly. "No one could. She'd always be the girl's mother, always have a place in our hearts. But there's room for you too." Room for new love, new memories, new beginnings. New beginnings, Anna repeated, smiling through tears. I like the sound of that. They sat in comfortable silence, fingers intertwined. As the moon rose over the water, 6 months later, spring returned to Seattle. The garden exploded with cherry blossoms and tulips. Emma and Olivia, now walking confidently, chased butterflies across the lawn while Martha hung laundry on the line. Richard and Anna stood side by side, watching the girls play. Anna wore a simple white dress, and in Richard's pocket was a small velvet box he'd been carrying for weeks. Waiting for the right moment. Anna, he began. But Olivia came running up, grabbing Anna's hand. Anna! Anna! Look! She held up a dandelion. Make wish. Anna knelt down. You make the wish, sweetie. Blow hard. Olivia squeezed her eyes shut, made a silent wish, then blew with all her might. The seeds scattered in the breeze, floating away like tiny parachutes. What did you wish for? Emma asked, running over. Can't tell. Olivia said seriously. Or it won't come true. Richard laughed, pulling the box from his pocket. I have a wish too, he said. All three turned to look at him, Anna's breath catching as she saw what he held. He opened the box, revealing a simple gold band with a small diamond. Anna Montgomery, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Would you officially become part of this family, not just as a caregiver or a friend, but as my partner, my love, and the mother these girls already see you as? Anna's hands flew to her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. Yes, she whispered. Then louder. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Emma and Olivia shrieked with delight, jumping up and down. Martha appeared from around the corner, beaming. About time, she called out. Richard slipped the ring onto Anna's finger, then pulled her into a kiss while the girls giggled and Martha applauded. When they finally pulled apart, Anna looked down at Emma and Olivia. Is this okay with you two? Me marrying your daddy? Emma nodded vigorously. You nice. You give hugs. You make pancakes. Olivia added, and you sing pretty songs. Not scary ones. Anna's face darkened briefly at the memory of Victoria's strange lullabies, but Richard squeezed her hand. Those days are over, he said firmly. We only look forward now. 1 year later. The metal tub sat in the garden, now painted bright yellow, and filled with soil where tomatoes and herbs grew. It had become Anna's garden planter, a symbol of transformation. Of how even the darkest objects could be repurposed for light and life. Emma and Olivia, now 4 years old, helped Anna water the plants every evening. Their laughter echoed across the lawn as Richard and Martha prepared dinner together in the kitchen. You know, Martha said, chopping vegetables. I never thought this house would feel warm again after Miss Claire passed. But look at it now. Richard glanced out the window at his family, his daughters, his wife, all bathed in golden evening light. Anna saved us, he said simply. She saw the truth when I couldn't. She fought for my children when I was too blind to see the danger. She's got a fierce heart, that one, Martha agreed. And you're lucky to have her. I know. Richard smiled. Every single day I know. That night, after the girls were asleep, Richard and Anna sat in the nursery's rocking chair, Anna in his lap, both watching their daughter's dream. Do you ever think about Victoria? Anna asked quietly. About what she might have done if... No, Richard said firmly. She's in prison where she belongs. The trial was swift once all the evidence came out, the medicine, the video footage, her emails planning everything. She'd be there for a long time. Good, Anna shuddered. I still have nightmares sometimes. About that night. The glass breaking. Her eyes. Richard held her tighter. But you were braver than your nightmares. You saved our daughters' lives. You're their hero, Anna. And mine. She turned to kiss him softly. We saved each other, she corrected. You gave me a home. A family. A purpose. Before I met you, I was just existing. Now I'm living. Then we're even, Richard said, smiling against her lips. Underscore. The story could end here with justice served, love found, and a broken family made whole again. But real life is never quite that neat. 2 years after Anna and Richard married, on a gray November morning, Richard received a letter from the Washington State Correctional Facility. Victoria had written to him, her first communication since the trial. His hands shook as he opened it. Anna stood beside him, reading over his shoulder. Dear Richard, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I've had 2 years to think about what I did. And I finally understand the depth of my betrayal. I was consumed by jealousy, jealous of Claire's memory. Jealous of your daughter's bond with Martha. Jealous of anyone who might diminish my control over your life. I told myself I loved you, but real love doesn't hurt. Real love doesn't poison innocent children. I'm in therapy now, facing what I am, learning why I became this person. It doesn't excuse anything, but perhaps it explains it. My own childhood was filled with neglect and cruelty. I learned early that manipulation was survival, but you showed me something different. You, Anna, Martha, even your daughters, you all showed me what real family looks like. What genuine love looks like. And it terrified me because I didn't know how to be part of it. I don't ask for your reply. I don't ask for anything except this. Tell Emma and Olivia, when they're old enough to understand, that the woman who hurt them was sick. That she's sorry. That they deserve so much better. And tell Anna, the woman brave enough to stop me, that she has my gratitude. She saved your daughters. She saved you from making a terrible mistake. And in a strange way, she saved me too. Prison might seem like punishment, but it's the first place I've ever been forced to face myself honestly. Be well, Richard. Be happy. You deserve it. V. Richard set down the letter, his vision blurry. Anna wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her chin on his shoulder. How do you feel? She asked gently. Sad, he admitted. Angry, relieved, confused, all of it at once. That's okay, Anna said. Complex feelings for a complex situation. Should I write back? Anna considered. Do you want to? Part of me does. Part of me wants her to know that we've built something beautiful from the ashes she left behind. That her attempt to destroy us only made us stronger. Then write it, Anna said. Not for her. For you. For closure. That evening, Richard composed a brief response. Victoria, thank you for your letter. I won't pretend to fully understand your actions, but I appreciate your honesty now. My daughters are thriving. They're bright, loving, curious little girls who bring joy to everyone around them. They have no memory of what you did, and I hope they never will. When they're older, if they ask, I'll tell them the truth that someone who was hurt tried to hurt others, but was stopped before lasting damage could be done. I hope you find peace in your treatment and reflection. I hope you learn to build instead of destroy, to love without controlling, to find worth without needing power over others. I've forgiven you not because you deserve it, but because carrying anger would poison my own family. My life now is too full of light to waste energy on darkness. I wish you well on your journey. R. Richard chooses forgiveness. But is that the right choice? This is where I want to hear from you. Comment. Do you think Richard should have forgiven Victoria? Does she deserve a second chance at redemption? Or does some harm go too far to forgive? There's no right answer. This is your story too. If this story moved you, if you've cried, if you felt Anna's courage or Richard's pain, please like this video. Subscribe so we can continue this conversation together. And most importantly, share this story with someone you care about. Because sometimes, the most powerful moment is when we talk about what we've experienced together. He sealed the letter, addressed it, and set it by the door to mail. When he returned to the living room, Anna was reading a bedtime story to Emma and Olivia. All three curled together on the couch. And the brave knight saved the kingdom, Anna read. Not with a sword, but with truth and courage. Because sometimes the strongest weapon is simply refusing to look away from what's wrong. Like you, Mama, Emma said. They'd started calling Anna Mama, about 6 months after the wedding. A transition so natural that no one had formally discussed it. Like you, brave knight, Olivia added, wrapping her arms around Anna's neck. Anna met Richard's eyes over the girls' heads. And in that look passed everything they'd survived, everything they'd built, everything they'd become. 5 years after Victoria's arrest on a perfect spring day, the Sullivan family gathered in the garden for Emma and Olivia's 9th birthday party. The yard was filled with children's laughter, balloons, and the smell of Martha's famous chocolate cake. Richard stood apart for a moment, watching Anna help a shy child join the games. Watching Martha referee a water balloon fight. Watching his daughters, healthy, happy, surrounded by friends, blow out their birthday candles together. A hand touched his elbow. He turned to find an older woman smiling at him, Mrs. Chen. Their neighbor. Your family is beautiful, she said warmly. Thank you, Richard replied, his throat tight. That wife of yours, she's something special. I remember when things were difficult. Dark. But she never gave up on those little girls. No, Richard agreed softly. She never gave up on any of us. Mrs. Chen patted his arm. That's real love, Mr. Sullivan. Not the showy kind. The kind that stays. The kind that fights. After the party, after the guests left and the girls were tucked into bed sticky with frosting and exhausted from playing, Richard and Anna returned to the garden. The yellow metal tub, now overflowing with cascading petunias, caught the last rays of sunset. Do you remember the first time you saw this? Richard asked, touching the tub's rim. I remember, Anna said. I remember babies with blue lips. I remember being terrified. I remember knowing something was terribly wrong, but not knowing if anyone would believe me. I should have believed you immediately, Richard said. Not for the first time. You were grieving, manipulated, desperate to believe in something good. Anna took his hand. But when the truth became undeniable, you acted. You chose your daughters over your pride. That's what matters. Richard pulled her close, resting his chin on her head. This tub used to represent the worst day of my life, finding my daughters in freezing water, realizing the woman I trusted was harming them. But now filled with flowers. It represents transformation, hope, the possibility that even the darkest moments can bloom into something beautiful. That's poetry, Anna teased gently. That's you, Richard corrected. You're the one who taught me that broken things can be mended. That trust, once shattered, can be rebuilt. That love after loss can grow again. They stood together as twilight deepened, surrounded by the scent of flowers and the distant sound of the lake's gentle waves. Years passed. Emma and Olivia grew into confident young women. Both planning to study psychology and social work inspired, they said, by Anna's courage to speak up when children were in danger. Martha eventually retired, moving into a cottage on the property where she could garden and bake, and spoil her granddaughters, without the daily responsibilities of housekeeping. Richard's business continued to thrive. But he made time for what mattered: family dinners, homework help, weekend hikes around the lake. And Anna brave, fierce, loving Anna became a child advocate, working with families in crisis, training caregivers to recognize signs of abuse, speaking at conferences about trusting your instincts when something feels wrong. Some people think I'm a hero, she told an interviewer once. But I just did what any decent person should do, protected children who couldn't protect themselves. The real heroes are the ones who survive and heal. Richard and his daughters, they're the heroes of this story. But in Richard's eyes, she would always be the hero who saved them all. The House of Light, that's what Emma nicknamed it when she was 12, writing a school essay about family. We used to live in shadows, she wrote. But Mama brought the light. The essay won first prize, and Anna framed it, hanging it in the kitchen where she could see it every morning while making coffee. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Richard brought Anna back to the garden at twilight. The metal tub, now ancient and more flower than container, still sat in the place of honor. I have something for you, Richard said, pulling out a small box. Anna laughed. After 10 years, you're still giving me jewelry? Open it, Inside was a silver pendant shaped like a small watering can. I don't understand, Anna said, though her eyes were already misting. The jeweler thought I was crazy, Richard admitted. But I wanted you to have something that represents what you do best, taking broken, buried, painful things and helping them grow into something beautiful. You did it with this house. With our daughters. With me. Anna threw her arms around him, the pendant clutched in her fist. I love you, she whispered fiercely. I love our life. I love our family. I love that we survived and built something real. I love you too, Richard said. Thank you for saving us. Thank you for staying. Thank you for every day since. They kissed as the stars emerged over Lake Washington, the lights from their house warm and golden behind them. Inside, Emma and Olivia were helping Martha frost a surprise anniversary cake. The sound of their laughter drifted through the open windows. And in the garden. The yellow metal tub, once an instrument of cruelty, now a vessel of life, bloomed with purple and white petals that glowed in the fading light. From darkness to light. From brokenness to healing. From fear to love. This is how the story ends, not with a dramatic finale, but with an ordinary evening in an extraordinary family's life. With laughter and flowers and love that endures. Because that's what real triumph looks like. So, what about you, dear listener? After hearing this story, which character resonated most with you? Was it Richard, the father who was blind but learned to embrace life again? The man who trusted the wrong person but found the courage to accept the truth when it finally emerged? Or was it Anna, the young woman brave enough to confront wrongdoing, even when it meant risking her job, her safety, and her life? The one who stood up for children who couldn't speak for themselves? Or perhaps Martha, the quiet guardian of warmth and home, who trusted her instincts even when others dismissed her concerns? And throughout the story, what action moved you most? Was it the moment Anna held both babies in the rainy night, refusing to let them go? Or when Richard knelt beside the metal tub, finally seeing it as a symbol of redemption and new beginnings? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know how you felt about this journey from shadow to illumination. Let's discuss. And continue with more comforting and insightful stories in the nights to come. Because sometimes the most powerful tales are the ones that remind us courage exists, truth matters, and real love always fights for what's right. Thank you for listening. May your own journey from darkness to light be filled with people as brave as Anna, as devoted as Martha, and as willing to change as Richard. Sleep well, knowing that even in our darkest moments, there's always someone willing to turn on the light. Good night.